Hello Martin, welcome to episode 111 of Illuminating Rounds and to 2025. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yes, you never give me any warning that we're going live. Kind of, well, we're not live, but you know what I mean. You always kind of go, "You all right?" I go, "Yeah," and then we're suddenly just starting. I don't realise that "Are you all right?" is get ready.
Yeah, no, that's exactly you're a professional. I know you're ready to go. So everything's good here.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? We've been away for a little while. What's been happening?
Yeah, so we've had a little bit of a break. I don't know why you asked me. You know, I've got a boring life in comparison to you. You know, you've been around the Caribbean, and you know, I might as well have been imprisoned in a cardboard box or something like that. Really, I haven't been doing anything interesting. But you had a lovely time. Oh, do you know, I went to London yesterday. I love going to London. I dressed up, and went to a little conference and stuff like that down there. So it was nice. We had an Indian restaurant. We had a meal out with some people I'm going to be working with. Yeah, it was good.
You rocked London with a bunch of mortgage advisors.
Yeah.
London won't be the same again, will it? It's
But that's as exciting as my life gets.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. You're about to undertake a new phase of life, aren't you? With
Civilization 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, see. Well, sorry. Yeah. With the new job, should be starting in a few weeks. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. You're going to straddle people with debt and help them achieve their dreams at the same time. That's a very.
It's literally what you do. You give people a debt. That's what mortgage advisors do.
And sell them a dream as well. You're doing that. So I went on that cruise. I was around the Caribbean. We did all sorts of places: Aruba, Jamaica, Grand Cayman Islands, Costa Rica, Panama. It was all very, very nice. I love cruises. It turns out that even though I was one of the younger people on the cruise, I loved it. You meet interesting people. I played a lot of poker in the evenings. I was able to hear people's life stories because people are at the stage of life where they're quite happy to tell you their life story, but it's fascinating. People that have bought and sold businesses, bought and sold their own business back again, turned it around again. Made loads of money here, done this. It was all everybody had a story. And it was everyone's in a good mood. Everyone's friendly. Everyone's eaten far too much. That's the other thing about cruises. You don't go hungry on a cruise. Came back with a cough, the old cruise cough that everybody comes back with.
Yeah.
So just about over that. And then Christmas, we had a nice time for Christmas. We've had all the family came over. We did a lot of what was supposed to be a very relaxed Christmas with the kids being over for a little while. They're all at universities and bits and pieces now, but they were all going to come over for a day, and then Nicole and I were going to go out for lunch for Christmas for the first time rather than do Christmas for everybody. And then one by one, people started saying, "Oh, do you mind if we stay for a few days? Or we're only going to stay for 4 or 5 days," and it became like a boot camp for everybody to stay over. So we did that instead, and that was good fun. And
if it's just the two of you, it's actually really nice to go out Christmas Day and have a meal in a restaurant or something like that. It just takes all the pressure off. It's nice.
That's right.
Or even a hotel. Stay a night or two in a hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But instead we did it, but it was all right. It was fine. I mean, I say it was all right. I didn't do all of the selecting of the food and the presenting of the food and everything, which Nicole obviously does. But anyway, that's by the by. Yeah. Did you have a good Christmas as well?
Yes. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
All right. And then New Year's, all good. And we're done.
Yeah. So we're back. Yeah. Back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah. ASL. Have you been playing much ASL over?
I played Ian Willie, the guy that makes the tournament prizes, and we've been playing him. He's frighteningly a good player at the moment, which is, I say at the moment, he's always been quite a good player, but he seems to be up to notch, and I'm a bit worried about it, if I'm honest with you. I like people comfortably worse at ASL than me, but no, Ian's a good player now.
This is why you and I get on so well. We both think that each other's comfortably worse than the other. It's a bit like when you leave your kids to go off to whatever they're going to study, and they come back and they know all the stuff that you've no idea about, and suddenly they've turned around into becoming these well-rounded adults, and Yeah, Ian was always a decent player, but like you say, I think he's played a lot, done a lot of play testing. And he's done the model, like you say, for the final. We've got the final results in. We're not going to do it this week. We'll do it next time because there's a few other games just finishing up for Belgian Blitzkrieg. But we do know the winner of that now, and we're going to be showing that.
It's actually, Ian told me that he has played every scenario from, it's not Valor of the Gods, Red Barricades.
Okay.
Played them all. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're playing a game with factories and stuff. So he says, I know how to play factories, don't I? I know how to attack factories or whatever. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell, yeah, you do.
Wow. Including the last bid he's played as well? He's
presumably not.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So,
wow.
Anyway, yeah.
There you go. All right. So this week we are going to talk about. I had an interesting conversation with Steve Slunt over Christmas. He gave me a call to talk about something he'd noticed. He felt in particular with European players versus North American players, but this may be just a small sample size that he's played with around whether players resign too early. Now we've had this kind of conversation a little bit before, but he believes it was more of a cultural difference. So I was going to talk to you about this in terms of, and his experience was that sometimes European players resign when things don't look too good, and it's in all likelihood a loss. I mean, he wasn't suggesting they were resigning too early, but what he was saying in terms of when it is mathematically still possible to win, he would expect, like a lot of North American players, to carry on playing, and it seemed like European players didn't play. Where are you on that scale of mathematically possible versus you've had a few bad dice rolls?
Yeah, so I think it depends a little bit on the situation, doesn't it? I mean, sometimes I think if me and you are playing, like it's almost worth, because we know each other kind of quite well. Like are we enjoying this scenario? And I'm getting a battering here. Is it easy just to resign this and move on? I think it's different if you're playing somebody who perhaps is enjoying their comfortable victory. I don't want to snatch that enjoyment away. It's quite nice dominating your opponent occasionally, isn't it? And it's kind of go, looks like you're going to win, so I'm going to resign and clear off. I think that's unfair. So I think it does depend a bit on the situation, but on the whole, while there's a plausible, albeit less likely possibility of winning, I think you should kind of like plough on, really.
Yeah. I think I'd probably go a little bit early. But I did it because I think I don't want to. I don't want to make the opponent feel like I'm clutching at straws or something, or that it's a little bit a bit of embarrassment about really losing. Like it's okay to lose by a hair's width, and it's not so much fun to lose by a massive amount.
That's true.
And so where I think it's if like kind of the balance has swung a little bit, and then it goes a little bit further, that tends to be the point where I tend to kind of wobble.
It feels like it's slipping away, isn't it? It's like, but it's the direction of movement is not in your favour.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing in terms of we know that in ASL, especially you lose 2 squads on the first turn through 2 bad KIAs or whatever it might be. That has a knock-on effect throughout the whole 7 extra turns, isn't it? Because that kind of accumulates. The remaining squads have to do more, and each loss is significantly greater. And so it just feels like kind of the writing is on the wall at that point. And I'm kind of very bad for this, and I think I've noticed myself playing this. When you start playing, if the first few rolls go your way, let's say you pass a few 2 morale checks, 3 morale checks or something, and then you get a sniper out of it as well, and then suddenly you've broken, so you feel like this is a one game, and it often isn't by any stretch. But I'm also the opposite, where in terms of where if I lose a couple of those units, I'm already like, I've pretty much lost. I know what tends to happen. I think this is what you're supposed to anyway, which is when you are behind the curve, you have to take more risks. And when you take more risks, you expose yourself to more fire, and then the more fire generates more casualties, and you lose quicker.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing, isn't it, in business about failing fast. And that became a bit of a term for a few years, the business kind of, let's fail fast. And if we're going to fail, I kind of like to think of my ASL players a little bit like that. Let's fail fast.
David Schofield used to, when we were playing friendly games, he'd like to explore a pack. I remember we played most of the few returned ones, the ones on the Russian front anyway. and he would he was of the view he gets started and we'd be playing the game, and he'd kind of go, oh yeah, no, I think I've got this one here, and kind of explaining, yeah, let's just leave this game here and move on to the next one. He wanted to kind of experience them or get a
Right.
sense of them, but that's because he wasn't wanting to play kind of competitively. He was
Right.
playing in a friendly way, but also an exploratory way, just
Yeah.
exploring the situation and stuff. It's interesting. That's not how I played, but well, to some extent I had to when I played David. But yeah, it was good. It was interesting. But, yeah, you learn quite a lot playing someone like him because he played quick.
Yeah.
He got through packs.
This is the thing. I mean, I think one of the things that ASL misses a little bit is the idea of giving a pack a fair review. So we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about the March Madness pack, the Korean pack, the Korean War pack that the Kansas City guys in Encircled Productions have put up on the Scenario Archive, and we've played one of the scenarios today. Now, it's really hard. Like, if in any other kind of genre, if you like, we would be able to do a pack review. We'd be able to say, okay, how good is this set of scenarios? The reality is, because it takes a full day, let's say, to play a scenario, from setup to think about it to discuss, how we felt. And there are, let's say, there's 10, 12 scenarios in a pack. I think there might be 8 in this one. I can't remember. We can look it up. But let's say there's 10 in this pack. That's 10 full days worth of play. And obviously, reality speaking, you should swap sides and play it from both sides if you're going to give the pack a fair review.
Yeah.
It's 24 days of of play. We know that's huge value in terms of value for money, but it means it's very, very difficult to give a pack a very fair review. It would be fun, I think, to sit down and over the course of, let's say, 2 days or a weekend, you pull all the counters for every pack, every scenario, and you play a scenario in no more than 2 hours. Like 2 hours is your absolute limit. Yeah. So, beer and pretzels ASL, really. But to get exactly that, to get that feel for it. And then you could, in theory, say, okay, well, this one looked really interesting. This one looked not so great. And I know that better players are able to kind of envisage the setup on their, almost in their mind. It's like almost playing blindfold chess. They kind of, the Germans set up very far forward here, and the French have got a lot to do to push through this, and which is I'm not able to do it. But I'm certainly, I've seen at tournaments when people start talking about scenarios. But we don't get that in ASL. We don't get that pack review where people have played every scenario and said, okay, this is the gem here. This is the...
you get Mark Pickavige's site where there is a review of everything, but he doesn't pretend to have played all the scenarios, if any of them. Yeah,
right. It's interesting, isn't it? Do you think there's... the other thing is, I don't think there's a need for it, because I think ASL players are impulsive enough, not impulsive, eager enough and keen to support the hobby enough that they buy packs on the basis that one scenario will appeal to them, 2 scenarios might appeal to them, and that's the beauty of the system in a way, in that you only need one to be able to get your value for money from a pack. We talked about if a scenario costs a pint of beer, then it's much better value in terms of you're going to get a day's entertainment out of that, hopefully. But I wonder if it would be fun to try and do. And the reverse is that, as we might find in this scenario, we play a scenario from a pack and it's not representative of the pack's quality, but we come away from it thinking, oh, that wasn't great for whatever reason. It might be our poor play. It might be our misunderstanding of how we should have set up. So do you have any thoughts around why people don't expect a pack review to be... Because nobody's come along and said, okay, I'm going to do a review of this pack in terms of scenarios played.
Sorry, what was the question?
Do you have a view about why people don't? There's not been a niche of like a reviewer who plays all of the scenarios in the pack and talks about the.
It's just not practical, is it?
Yeah.
It's just not practical, and I think that's what I think would be because it would take a huge amount of time for 2 people to commit just to play them for a review that 50 people might read or whatever. I think. Some packs are more like this, but there aren't that many packs like this. Where perhaps they kind of the pack sort of tells a story, might be interesting to kind of review, where you kind of literally play them all because they kind of build on each other and they're kind of telling a story perhaps. Actually, the March Madness pack has a theme, doesn't it? It's the Korean War. The few returned action pack way back told two stories, really, didn't it? You had the whole of the Eastern Front stuff, and then there were the other scenarios that were in Italy. I thought the Eastern Front stuff was really, really good, and it gave me an insight into a little part of the Second World War that I knew nothing about. You know, we're playing them online, and you know, obviously they're winterized. You know, you winterize the boards, and you know, the stories of the Italians were all wounded, and all this kind of stuff. It was dramatic, actually. I thought it was very, very well done. It was like a study of something. I thought it was quite an interesting approach. And I think if you did that, it would be really interesting to do a review of a pack. But where a lot of packs, even a pack like this that has career as a theme, they're probably, I haven't looked carefully enough to know whether this is true, but they might well be very, very different time periods or geographically different places. I don't think they tell a story like that. You'd be playing very, very different scenarios. You know, a little infantry one, then there's one some tanks, and there's one in a jungle, and I don't know that you could review them because you'd be playing scenarios that were to your taste, perhaps, and scenarios that weren't to your taste.
Right.
It'd be difficult to generalize about I think all you could generalize about is perhaps production quality. You know, whether worked hard at making sure that it's played balanced and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And as we talked about before, like, balance is such a subjective view because it's based on players' understanding of a scenario, players' skill. How many times have you played that scenario before? There's all those kind of things, which is so difficult. Balance, you know, kind of shows itself in one light over a course of months when it's had 20, 30 plays. And even then, you don't know the ability of that play, and you don't know, you know, if there's a trick. And we've talked about that, you know, in terms of the difficultiness. Okay, it's interesting, isn't it? There feels like there's a real niche in someone sort of committing, even in a 2-hour playthrough of each scenario. So real quick, let's play the first 3 turns of this. Okay, we get an idea of this is how it's going to kind of go. But I think the other problem with trying to review an ASL scenario is so much of it comes down to what happens in the scenario. So we've played scenarios where maybe they've been okay, but we've had some really exciting events in the last few turns. Someone's, you know, passed a thing, got a hero, the hero's run with a thing, picked up a gun, blah, blah. And it becomes an exciting story, and the scenario benefits from it. And we've had others where someone has had a really bad run of luck. You know, the OBA's failed, the machine guns have failed, whatever it might be, and the scenario has felt flat. And that's not the scenario's fault. I know, you know, we could argue that, okay, well, there's SSRs that can fix those kind of problems. But in general, through either poor play or through bad setups, the scenario has gone wrong. And it feels harsh to be able to review a scenario based on that. So it's a really difficult thing, isn't it, to try and review because you've got all sorts of different things to try and... And so it goes back to exactly what you say, production quality. It goes back to, all right, well, has the scenario been presented in a way? Are the scenario SSRs clear? Are the, you know, that's probably the best we can hope for in terms of a balanced-ish scenario that has some clear things.
And you know what? I think there's a lot about you know where you are when you're playing the game as well. You know, me and Martin Mayers, we haven't played each other for a long time. We played each other in Blackpool last time I was there, and it was an absolute cracking game. We both agreed that it was an absolutely cracking game. I mean, it's partly because I enjoy playing Martin. He's a fun person to. I hope he's not listening to this. You know, he's a fun person to play, and he's a good player. You know, and it ended up. It was just terrific. But I think a lot of that's to do with, you know, I was in a good mood. I was up for the game. He was in a good mood. He's up for the game, and it was those sorts of things come together. Now we would both give that scenario a fantastic review. Yeah. But you know, straight up, you know, in the middle of the divorce and the you know the job losses and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe we wouldn't have been enjoyed it much. You know, so it's all kinds of things. It's so subjective.
It is interesting, isn't it? It is
fun to do that. It's fun, but it could be fun to do, and that's and people might enjoy watching it.
Right.
So do you want to do a
pack review? Well, I think it would be interesting to try and like I say, go through them in 2 hours, just a really let's look. But the other thing is that you know that's a huge amount of work to do that, and that's absolutely fine to do it. But because it's such a subjective opinion, I think that what might happen is that if you, for example, let's say, for example, we played one scenario from a pack and we loved it, and then someone who sat down and did a pack review were quite cursory about that one that we loved. This is okay, seems like an average, blah, blah, blah. Well, very quickly you discount all of the other person's viewpoints because you think, well, if they didn't get this one right, why would I listen to any of the others? And suddenly all of that work is effectively the equivalent of someone who just flicks through the pages and says, this one looks good, this one looks too big, I don't like Knight, or whatever.
Yes, yeah. Which is a silly thing. Well, it's not a silly thing to say. It's people entitled to not like Knight or to think this is too big. But other people like big scenarios. Presumably, other people like Knight. But I think the thing is that there isn't a right. There isn't a right. These are opinions, aren't they? And so there is no right and there is no wrong. But what a review can do, perhaps, is give a flavour of a pack, perhaps.
Right.
If you, as you said, spent 2 to 3 hours just playing the beginning of each one or something like that, you could give a sense of the flavour.
Right.
People listening to that might go, that's the kind of thing that appeals to me, or that's not really it's a lot of nights, too many Knight scenarios for me, or whatever it is that that would be. Yeah, I think that would be valuable. I'd like to read that, or see a YouTuber or something like that doing something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's talk about Flanked again. Then this is the Encircled production Korean War pack. So we picked a scenario based solely on the name and roughly the time that it was going to take to play. We picked one of the smaller ones and that. So Flanked again. This one, let's flick over to the board here, was challenging for us in terms of how to play. Now, the board here looks reasonably okay to play in terms of the hill boards. I messed up in terms of the setup. There's a surprise, but when I put the boards together, I was looking for the transformations because this board here, the top board here, board 83, has an SSR that talks about having no level 5 hills. And as you can see on the screen, there are no level 5 hills, so that's all good. But I didn't realise that at the time. I thought you had to do it through a transformation, switch level 5s to level 4s. It turns out there's another box on Vassal that allows you to set the maximum level height, so maximum level 4, for example, which in this case now I've done. So this board looks very different to how we played it. And
we had to remember, didn't we, that there
right.
weren't level 5 hills in there. And actually, it's fine that Vassal can correct that, albeit a bit late for us.
Yep.
But real physical boards can't.
Yeah.
So playing with that in a tournament or face to face with a friend, it was playing with our brains a little bit, wasn't it?
It was very hard work. It was hard work.
Yeah.
When we look at it like this, it looks trivial. It looks so simple.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can easily see. But if I showed you the board without, with all the level 5s on board 83 as well, it's quite tricky because the level 5s are existing on the bottom board. So you can't just mentally turn that colour off in your head when you've got them both on there. So I would say that this scenario is a little bit trickier to play face to face. And the other challenge about the scenario is the setup conditions are quite restrictive for the Americans in terms of where they can set up. So they've essentially got three sections. Now, I'm not suggesting that I've set them up properly or in the right position, but broadly speaking, they were set up in 3 columns. You can come along anywhere along the bottom, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
And you're trying to get off 15 points off this corner here, this top corner here. So straight away, like we can see, this is almost seven hexes away from the victory.
And I've got 20 squads at the beginning. So that's 40 points that I can get off.
That's right.
Plus crews and leaders and things like that.
Yeah. Exactly. You can also reduce the number that you need to do by taking, I think it's every 4 CVP.
Yeah.
You can reduce the numbers. And of course, it's American and it's 6 morale troops. So, and not only that, they're under ammunition shortage because of the Korea War, early war, Korean War. So there's not a lot going on for the Americans. I set up a heavy machine gun away from, not that I could set it up close here, but in a way that I thought wouldn't get too much heat on it. I thought this would be able to cover a fair amount of the board. The problem is that there is this kind of almost like valley style thing on the left hand side here that the North Koreans can kind of sneak up, And if these guys at the front here, there's was it 3 squads here? If these go down, you've almost got a clear path.
Yeah.
It's questionable whether the guys on the right hand side will even get back to the battle.
Yeah.
It's safe to say I wasn't confident about this one to start with.
Yeah. And actually, it's not common for me to feel confident at the beginning of the scenario, but at the beginning of the scenario, I felt relatively confident.
Right.
I've got 2 81mm mortars. Obviously, they're going to be dismantled. They're going to take a little bit of time to get into action. 2 medium machine guns. Leadership's not great, but there is an 8-1, so those machine guns can be quite powerful. So I thought what I would do is I'd have a relatively modest force, try to perhaps pin you a little bit on the kind of the right and the centre, and the majority of my force just try to get through those. I don't know if there's 3 or 4 American squads there on the left-hand side as we're looking at it. But I kind of feel like I can afford to have a few units break. I've got a commissar, I think. Yeah, I've got a commissar.
Yeah.
Afford to have a few units break. You can't afford anything to break on that left-hand side. Every single squad that breaks is a massive hole in your... and it's quite a wide goal, and I'm not very far away from it. Well, it's like 8 hexes away from the victory. It might be a bit more than that, but it's certainly not far. So, yeah, no, I was feeling confident from the beginning.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out these guys here that I've set up on the right side are set up as far left as they can to try and give them as a quicker run as possible to get back here. But I mean, the terrain is so. We should mention as well. It's steep. Is it steep hills?
Yes.
Are in effect.
Which really helps. I mean, it helps both, but it certainly helps me coming on with heavy machine guns and things facing me. In fact, I can come on concealed.
Yeah. Now it costs you a little bit extra in terms of movement points up and down hills if you are at your portage point capacity, I think.
That's right.
But effectively, they're kind of concealment terrain, but they're still open ground. So you don't lose concealment if you are assault moving in them.
But you do get a -1 because it's open ground.
Right. So there's some interesting kind of changes there to some of what you would think as normal kind of rules.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it came down to whether I could hold, this little kind of flanking force and whether or not these guys can cause enough damage. So we'll start flicking through and seeing what happens. Oh, it's worth mentioning there's a few, the scenario card has got a couple of mistakes in it. The sniper number and one of the setup instructions for one of the American groups. But they've been corrected on the archive. And I do believe that the March Madness guys are going to produce an updated pack as well, which we'll sort out. We have a little bit of confusion here in terms of the bottom hex isn't actually, or the bottom half hex isn't in play. So anything
that's on a half hex isn't really on yet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So the heavy starts to do its stuff, and the mortar is holding off some guys on the right hand side. But as you can see, you are still making some progress.
Yeah.
And your first turn, which was fairly cautious, I thought.
I thought so.
But you actually you do manage to get some progress onto the board. The wind starts up, doesn't do an awful lot, and that was the end of the first session that we played. Let's carry on. Continue.
I mean, even assault moving advancing is enough for me to comfortably get off.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So I thought, keep a bit of concealment.
Yeah. Exactly. So we start to pull back.
Yep.
Try and get back in time. Everybody running back.
Yeah.
So you break the first set of guys, the leader here, and then the next guy goes berserk, which is pretty horrendous.
It turns his 6 morale to 10. That's one benefit.
Yeah. Absolutely, it does. But the downside is that you've got the big mortars are looking now at the heavy machine gun.
That's right. Yeah. Well, one of them is, and one's aiming at one of the German squads on the left-hand side. I kept getting a little bit thrown by who was the Axis and who was the Allies, because I had brown counters, but I was the Axis. That threw me.
Yeah.
But you see this all like, we've got the machine guns, I've got the mortars, got a big fire group up near the front. I'm going to break 6 morale guys, even if they're entrenched. You know,
Yes.
it's not. It's just a question of, you know, how many shots is it going to take?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, a little bit of manoeuvring here,
Yeah.
and then you're kind of figuring out where can you get the best run for this berserk guy
Yeah.
on the left hand side.
Yeah. And actually, I make a mistake here. I think I'm planning him to, because we've still got the additional level. I misread the board. I think
Right.
your berserker is going to go to
Yeah.
D. What is it?
Yeah,
D8.
the guy we just circled there. Yeah, like the commissar
Of course,
next guy. Yeah.
he can't see them. Of course,
Right.
Yeah. He goes that way.
Yeah, and then you get a K result, and then I do a 10 on the morale check, and he's gone.
And now I started to think, look, I'm going to win this. I can't lose this.
Yeah.
I've just got one squad in my way. A few guys coming around who could potentially have an impact on my exit.
Right. Yeah, you break another guy here.
Yeah.
You've got 6 victory points. So this is the equivalent, I think, 1 and a bit off already.
1, yes. So I've only got to get 1. I've got to get 1 less off than 14 instead of 15. Yeah.
My heavy machine gun breaks and is killed. It surrenders, and then the other guys are broken there.
I didn't take the surrender.
You did not, no.
No.
I get the crew
I
back.
should have done actually, because taking him off, he counts as 2 points, doesn't he? Whereas dead, he only counts as a quarter, half a point.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a mistake.
The heavy machine gun is back manned again. Breaks it straight away. You break the guy. No fire lanes is a little bit of a problem for me in terms of that would have helped
when you've
a
got
little
weapons like that, which are so good at fire lanes.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's a 6, isn't it? It's a 6 firepower machine gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that lane's a 4 residual for 16 hexes or something isn't bad.
Right, exactly. But ultimately, you break this guy.
Yeah.
And so it means you can't really set up towards the back and hope that you can put fire lanes to stop everybody getting across. But you've also got 7.5 turns, and this is turn 3.
Yeah.
And so I just can't. I haven't got enough guys back that can help. You break another one.
Yeah. I mean, it was. So it's interesting. Why haven't we resigned yet?
That's right. Yeah. Well,
we talk about that today.
And at this point where you do break this guy, you do resign. So that's the game really. So I would be interested to see a better setup for this one for the Americans. I would love to see anybody trying to take this on, and if you've got a replay of this one, we'd love to see a closer game for the Americans. And this goes back to the conversation about, like, we can't judge a pack based on this one scenario.
No, absolutely not. No.
If we played them all and they were all like this, we'd say, okay, well, but it's not fair. It's not right. And also, there's no reason why, for example, the scenario couldn't be broken because of my poor setup, for example. So there's that as well. I guess it was fun for you.
I don't know, listening to you moaning all the time.
I didn't moan about this one. I wasn't.
I'm teasing. Yeah. You didn't moan all the time.
No, I can imagine it was it was trickier, but
it felt like too easy a win, and I'm not sure what the reason is for that. I'm not quite sure why that is. Yeah.
Right. And we talked a little bit about during the game about are the hill boards fun to play on? Now, Vassal makes it 10 times easier when you're able to take the levels off and stuff. But I think it goes back to my personal feeling is that ASL is most fun when you have a nice varied amount of terrain. You've got some buildings, you've got a little bit of a stream or something. You've got some gullies, you've got some hills, you've got some woods. You can kind of adapt and each one of those has a strength. It's like a foil. Like, okay, well, the woods are okay for the infantry against the tanks, but now suddenly the mortars roll up and now they're in trouble, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
The hill boards are quite binary. You've got line of sight, a little bit like desert in a way. You've got line of sight, and okay, now you're in trouble, or there's not a lot of cover.
Yeah.
I don't get excited when I see scenarios solely on hill boards.
Although this board in itself, I think, is quite an interesting board. I mean, it does have woods on it as well.
Yeah.
There's streams and crag and stuff like that, isn't there? I think this is actually, I think it's actually quite an interesting board. And they have very unique features, don't they? So, for example, the way that you can skulk on hills if you're on the back of the hill top, if you like. There are some very interesting features. It can be really difficult attacking, can't it? Because if somebody sets up just off the crest, then in order to attack them, you've got to move adjacent, and that's the only way you're going to get line of sight. But of course, the defender gets the first shot. So, I think I like hill boards more than you.
Yeah.
But I kind of like how you have these little sort of cozy areas behind your position that the enemy can't see. You can sort of do your rallying, and you can maneuver units and move things around. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well played, Martin. Well played. As you did a good job there. Good job. I am going to be working on a new feature this week around tournaments for ASL on the archive. So what I want to do is have a kind of an area where people can create tournaments, invite players or have players sign up, and then run the tournaments through the archive. So, you see stand-ins, and we can see, pairings if you like, and stuff like that. It's a little bit tricky because a lot of tournaments run their tournaments differently. So, for example, we've played in tournaments where they seed the first round, where they split it in half, and they have the top half will play the second half. Some of them do random pairings, some do pairings that you're allowed to pair yourself, and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tricky to. So what I'm going to start doing is I'll start doing it to run our tournaments, so how we will run them, and then I'll eventually expand it to allow people to run other styles of tournaments as well, so you can kind of see. So look out for that. That's how we're going to run this year's tournaments for eliminating rounds for both the starter kit and the full ASL. So look out for that. That's going to come at some point. The other feature that is coming very soon, probably even by the time you see this video, is that patrons will be able to have access directly on the page of the scenario, although they've technically got it anyway, for the vassal setup files. So I'm going to make that more obvious for patrons to be able to download the latest version of the vassal setup. So if you want to have a vassal save file of not a replay, but of the game as it is to be set up, then you'll see that quicker on the homepage. I'll show that next time. But
so is this? Is there an issue though that as vassal develops that they go out of date?
Yeah, so that certainly was an issue, and I think in the past, I think they're a lot more mindful now about trying to stop that happening. But what I'll do is I will show the latest 2 or 3 only. So if you find that there's an issue with the latest version and you decide to upload a new version, it will be at the top of the list, and there can be like a little comment.
And so we set up flanked again. Presumably there isn't one, so we could put this there.
And you can do that anyway. You can do that right now. The only thing is that it's to find it, you've got to go down to the bottom, user files, and then look for a vassal setup file in that list. So what I want to do for patrons is just make it a little bit more obvious on the right at the top of the page. Okay, here's your thing. Like I say, it doesn't change any functionality for everybody on the archive. Everybody will still be able to have access to it. It's just patrons get a little bit extra. Just to say thank you again for the support for the archive. So that's the plan.
Brilliant.
What are we going to play next, Martin? What's our next game?
I don't know. So I wasn't expecting that question, but I think what we should do is take a very recent pack and pick something that we fancy.
Well, the new Schwerpunkt is the great example of that. My new Schwerpunkt is here. I have it. Very excited to see a new Schwerpunkt. I played.
I didn't even know Schwerpunkt were back.
They are back. Yeah, they're back. So I played. I can tell you about this. I played. Let me find out what I played. Simon Taylor, and in a scenario we played one. I played. Have I got it? I don't think I've. Okay.
This is gripping. This is gripping viewing.
Is it? I can't tell you because I didn't log it. So I was looking to see if I'd logged it. Let me see if I can recognise the name.
You didn't log it. My guess is you didn't win this then.
No, I didn't. No, I did win it. It was good. It was good. But no, I don't recognise which one it was.
I'm very up for doing the latest Schwerpunkt.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
It was good fun. So I will find out which one I did as well. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
But we'll play something from the Schwerpunkt because it's great to see those guys back as well. It's as if they never went away. I'll say that. The pack is the same.
There's so much to play in Schwerpunkt that I'm not sure that it effectively it's made any difference to most players. I mean, you're probably still working your way through your Schwerpunkt,
right?
While they have a few years off. Yeah, so that's absolutely brilliant. And in fact, I don't think we've played any of their stuff for quite a long time. It's kind of like I don't know. I kind of feel like it's almost there are new things. There are other things that have kind of like come in and stealing the limelight.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember being quite excited about getting the latest Schwerpunkt.
Absolutely.
Perhaps, and cracking it out and playing a game.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And we played so many of them.
Yep.
Over the years.
Yeah.
Let's do a Schwerpunkt, Dave.
Okay, we'll do it. Great to see those guys back. Great to see. The hobby's still going strong. And we'll perhaps next time we'll do a recap of what's been going on or what's coming up this year that we've kind of got an eye out for.
Yeah. Is the hobby still growing, do you think? Because people talk a lot, don't they, about there not being youngsters, and that's in the UK anyway. That's visibly very, very clear when like sort of the youngest person. It's probably you. It's. I
think I think it was Mark Blackmore. I think he's like a few weeks younger than me now. I think, but
there's not a lot in it, is it? Yeah. So, but it does seem to me as though there's still lots of people playing.
There are. I think in terms of like if we look at the packs coming out, I mean there was a time where I remember maybe a pack a month coming out from different. There was Friendly Fire, there was Schwerpunkt, there was action packs, there was a journal coming out, there was maybe a critical hit pack that people were looking forward to or something. Now it feels like that has tailored off a bit. It feels like we are down to maybe 3 or 4 products a year.
That Frank Terreur, isn't there?
Yes,
it's quite regular. And okay.
Yeah. But in terms of like what I don't know, how many products do you think you'll buy this year? ASL products.
I have no idea. I don't really look. I probably will slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I probably won't buy. I think I will probably buy the things that come from MMP this year that are maybe Schwerpunkt if they're back, where there are set key components, like some new boards and things like that. I'll tend to buy those sorts of things because otherwise I don't have a full kit.
Yep.
Yeah. But I probably won't buy anything from any other third party.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think they're good, but I'm just scaling back. I mean, my ASL collection's a mess as it is. It's one of my things this year is I want to kind of organise things a bit better.
Yeah.
I don't know what's there.
A lot of players now are starting to think about scanning everything.
Yeah.
And getting all the scenarios into a electronic format. I know Jim Bishop's done that. I think someone else has done that as well. Maybe Indy. So one of the things that I think I've talked about this before. One of the things I wanted to do, and hey MMP, if you're out there and listening, I would love to turn the archive into the Spotify of ASL. So that would mean that people would pay a kind of subscription, and then they would have access to all the scenarios of the companies that were, and then they are paid respectively for the number of downloads or whatever that people download. But to stop us having this problem of, I've got, I think, 8 binders. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
across,
Yeah.
1.5 meters worth of shelf space of scenarios.
And I bet you almost never flick through them.
No.
Kind of thing. Well, which one am I going to play? No.
I literally have a spreadsheet that lists every pack and where it is in which binder, because it's too difficult. So now if I, to find a scenario, okay, I've got to find out which, the archive obviously helps, find out which pack it comes from, okay, where does that sit in which binder? Okay, that binder is, this one here. And that feels like, that's a bit,
a bit of effort.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
When you used to have like 30 scenario cards and you could just sit and mull through them.
Yeah.
We need servants. We need people to manage these things for us,
It's yeah. Wasn't Toby Pilling going to do that for us? Wasn't he going to be our setup man?
What bothers me is that I can't help feeling that in the mess that, and I'm not nowhere near as organised as you, so I haven't got the binders like organised properly. But in that mass of stuff, there are some cracking games, and I have no idea where they are or what they are, and I will probably never play them because of that, because I'm not able to identify them. Yeah,
it's very true. It's very true. Talking of Toby, we have some Toby's tips.
We do.
Smoke grenades. Toby,
Fantastic.
Take away smoke grenades in infantry.
So I wanted to talk a bit about smoke grenades, basically, and I've got just a handful of things to say. One is, never forget about vehicular smoke grenades. It's about the only way that the Russians will be generating smoke, after all. But also half-tracks, those German and American half-tracks hurtling around. One of their best uses is to try to chuck a smoke grenade on a 1 or a 2. And of course, I believe you can also, with half-tracks, you can try to throw one while you're buttoned up, which is incredible, really, isn't it? You're immune from small arm fire and you're chucking it over the lid of the rim of the armour. So, vehicular smoke grenades, very, very useful. And sometimes they're a better shout than a smoke discharger, not only because there's a better chance of getting it sometimes, but also you might want the smoke to disperse by the end of the movement phase, so you can then do some good firing. So that's that. And really all I'm saying is always remember that you can use them, because they are underutilized, I feel. The second point I wanted to make was whenever you've got squads that can throw smoke, particularly, of course, Americans, and you finished your move, and you've got a movement point or 2 left over, it's worth, just at the back of your mind thinking, I could throw smoke here. If I got 1 movement point, I could do it in my own hex, 2 in an adjacent hex. And if you are moving, assault moving or otherwise, next to an enemy, and you have a smoke grenade or 2, a movement point or 2 left over, it's particularly worth thinking. And if you've got 2 left over, and this particularly happens when you've got a leader with a squad. So, you've got a squad and a leader, you assault move next to an enemy unit, that costs 2, you've got 2 movement points, 4 movement points left because you've got a leader there. That's when you can throw smoke in their location. And if you're an American, particularly, you try to go for white phosphorus. And that, again, is underutilized. A couple of movement points left, chuck white phos into their hex. And that's one good use of leaders, actually, is to almost have a smoke generating leader. And that's his aim in life, especially if you're sort of ploughing through woods and stuff. And then my last little thought is, and you don't see this much, is when you're attacking and the enemies lay down resid here and there, and you think, oh God, I need to get through that resid. But if I run through with infantry, it's going to be a 1 down 2. Well, what you can do is throw smoke grenades in. And what that does is it bounces the. I know it's a bit ridiculous, but it adds a +2 to that resid shot. So instead of it's a two down 2, it becomes a 2+1. So, and that's been done to me in the past. And I thought, that's interesting. That's a good idea to do. I think I've done it once or twice. It doesn't happen very often, but when you've got that key hex you've got to get into in open ground, you can chuck smoke in it to reduce the impact to the resid. And that's it for now.
So very good, Toby. That's it. I didn't realise about the half track stuff. I've just looked that up. That is interesting.
Yeah. I like the thing is, very often you've got one as your smoke exponent, and because of that, I don't think of the smoke as being a part of my plan. And because I don't think of it as a part of my plan, I'm moving units adjacent, and it doesn't really occur to me to just roll it. I mean, there's literally nothing to lose if you're not planning to move any further. You've got 1 or 2 movement factors. Throw some smoke. You might get a 1, and it helps everybody else.
Right.
It doesn't occur to me to do that.
Yeah.
And it should do, shouldn't it? Because that's a wasted opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Was good. Yeah. So that's something I'm gonna do more of.
I'm going to do more of that.
All right.
I'm going to do more of that.
Okay.
And the fire lane, negating the fire lane thing was a good trick. That's a very clever trick. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, Toby. That's always useful. If we put every one of Toby's tips in our brain, do we become a 5% better player? Do we become 100% better player?
Or do we become a sort of a cyborg Toby? A kind of
Right, good stuff. If you have any ideas about Toby's tips that you'd like to learn from, give us a shout. We can ask him, and we'll get some information back from him. It was interesting. I listened to Kurt's MMP roundtable, an older one, just to hear what he was doing. He was giving some tips about setup, and he was making the point. And I think he made. I don't want to speak for him, obviously. But he was saying if you have to move in your first phase as the defender, you've set up wrong. I think he meant if you have to move forward towards the enemy. I don't think he meant move back, because I think a lot of the time fallback defenses are one of those things. But it got me thinking that there are so many great tips out there for people that have got some interesting tips, a little bit like those tips from the trenches from the journals. So if anybody has some interesting tips they want to share, if you want to put a little video together, if you want to put anything, if you want to put a little sound clip together, we'd be happy to play those as well. Obviously, we'll be relying on Toby to give us our long form tips, because that's I mean, what do we pay him for if it's not that? And the check's in the mail, Toby. Honestly, it's coming. Anything else, Martin, from you?
No, I don't think so.
We're all good. Okay, we will find something to play from Schwerpunkt. Next time we're going to reveal the winner of the Illuminated Rounds tournament, Belgian Blitzkrieg. We will show the nice trophy that Ian has put together for us. And that's on its way. The winner has the LFT Pack 16 on its way as we speak now. And the runner-up has been given a copy of the Kansas City March Madness pack, the Korean pack, so they have that now as well. So all there. Just got to reveal the answers once we've got a few more games coming in, including mine against Twymo. So
Right.
Other than that, I'm done. Martin, are you done?
Me too. Yeah. Thanks all.
Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.